Hello, friends. My name is Matt, and welcome to the Joy of Nerding. On this episode, we're going to continue work on our Dragon Crest spaceship. But one of the things that occurred to me is that this was printed on my new printer, which means that I have all of the time-lapse footage from it being printed. Now, I find this very interesting to watch and very relaxing as you see something grow from nothing up to something. If this is not your thing, then please feel free to skip forward 4 minutes and 22 seconds. If it is, I hope you enjoy watching it and some nice mellow music. Once again, if you don't want to see this, please skip forward 4 minutes and 22 seconds from now. All right, friends, hopefully you enjoyed that. And now we will continue on with our priming of the second side. We have our Similres Gray, we have our Grex with the big cup fitted, and we have our model, which is right here. So, flip it over, and let's get started. All right, so we are not going to do these, which they stick because I stuck them. We're not going to do these again because there's no need to get the backs. So those are fine, as is our seat that we have put on our oil cap. So this can come off, and this can come off. And this can all go back in the box to go back in the house. Wait, no, it can't, because these are exterior pieces. So we're going to clip those exterior pieces on when we paint the whole thing silver. Interior pieces will be nicely separate and painted separately, but we can still put this to the side. All right, and so we've got this, which one of the things I realized is getting it from the top down is easy, but there's some kind of shots from the underside like this that I'm going to have to do those first. Also various parts of the landing gear, but this is still a little wet, so we're going to let that dry for a few minutes. They say 5 to 8. It's probably been about 5, but the real thing here is that it's a little chilly today. So we're going to pause, and through the magic of television, I'll come back in about 10 minutes, and this will be nicely dry, and we can continue on. And my friends, we are back, and now this is, we'll go with mostly dry. There's mostly dry, and then there's dry. If you get the reference, great. If you don't get the reference, go watch The Princess Bride, one of the best movies ever made. Now, because it's not completely dry, you could do the old glove, also because the paint is going to be a little soft, and also I'm likely to shoot paint all over my hand as I'm getting this into weird angles to try and get it. Have to make sure to miss the camera too. All right. Alright, so we've got that round is done. We are now fully primed. We just have to wait for it to cure overnight, which means we are back to our flushy flush the airbrush. Note that I'm pulling the trigger back as I do this, because the last thing you want is to mess up your needle with a cotton bud here. Nice and clean. There we go. Oh, don't lose this piece. I mean, you can get more. You can always order more, but I think I spent 20 minutes looking for this once, because I wanted to still paint, and it protects the needle when you paint, and I think it also regulates the spray, at least to some extent. At least that's what I've been led to believe. Now I've painted with off. I mean, you can certainly do that, but you get a different dispersion pattern to your paint than you do. Let's see if we can get that off before it sets up too much. There we go. I tell you, it is a very nice airbrush. It's expensive, but it's good quality, and it's comfortable to use for long periods of time. The other ones aren't bad, and you get a lot of precise control, but they're not as good on your fingers. Your finger starts to hurt after a bit. Whereas this, you can paint for hours, which is good considering the size of the things that you're painting with a brush such as this. Let's just do a final flush. Hello friends. Today we will continue on with our Dragon Crest spaceship, and we will finally get some color on it that's not universal primer gray. I have our black here, and we're going to get this thinned out and mixed up so that we can shoot it through our airbrush. So before we begin, the question is, how liquidy is this? Which also makes us question, how mixed up is this? So once again, we go back to our paint and our splatter shield and our mixer. I can shake it and I can hear it, and it sounds pretty liquid, but that doesn't mean that it's not all congealed down at the bottom. It's also only partway full. Works better if I do this. Also, you'll find I cleaned my water, as in I dumped out the old scummy water and put on some nice new water. This appears actually quite mixed up and also not super slimy. I have a sneaking suspicion that I already put some thinner in here because I knew I was going to use it some months ago. Oh, should be worth mentioning. Once again, we're out in the garage and it's gotten colder, hence my sweater. You really do need to be conscious of that if you live in a cold climate. Bring your paints inside. Your paints freeze. Best case scenario, nothing interesting happens. A more middling scenario is that they will end up getting nasty and separating out. So you'll never be able to get them to emulsify again. There's a lot of paints that do not take kindly at all to being frozen. All right, we have our bottle. We have a not particularly clean cup. Yeah, it's black. It'll be all right. So let's see how this is flowing. Actually pretty good. Oh, see, I got a chunky in there. It didn't wrap itself around the mixer, but it still got a little chunky. I'm mixing up a good amount of this because we're going to be spraying the whole ship. Again, this is airbrush medium, about a 50-50 mix. Start with that, give that a little spin, see where that gets us. I think I want some more medium. Oh, maybe not. I'm looking at how it coated this. That's actually pretty thin. I don't think I want any more. We're gonna run it just like that. Once again, we've got our strainer. We've got our funnel. Funnel goes in the strainer. And we'll see how much this. Last time I needed to actually run the paint mixer. I think I'm going to need to do the same thing. Run the paint mixer to agitate it to get it to go through the funnel. Looks like I need to do the same thing because it's going slowly and nobody has time for that. Yeah, I can see it before it was dripping and now it's filling quite nicely. And that seems to be all it's got to give. The rest is in there is kind of sludgy. And again, it's old paint. I don't know how old that paint is. 15 years. So it's old paint. It's not representative of what you would get new out of the bottle. All right, so we've got our brush. I'm just going to use the Grex pistol grip with a small cup on it. Oh, one thing I should do is, as we're talking about the ship, and we're going to be painting the ship, the base part, and we're going to be painting the front and back, and we're going to be painting the engines, but we do not need to paint most of these. These are interior components, as are these, but these are exterior components. So I didn't care about priming the back. I still don't. So we're going to put these off to the side, and I primed these. I wanted to get it primed right to the edge to make sure that the paint would stick properly. But at this point, I'm content with, oh, that was the other thing. I wanted to be able to get inside to paint it. But for here, I want the paint to look uniform, so I'm going to get the clips and put those back on. Now, one of my viewers did tell me that I should use more blue tack instead of the blue tape. I do use blue tack, but not for things like this. And the reason is because the tape is slightly more convenient, and you're also not putting much in the way of pressure on it. I like the blue tack when I need something that I can actually put enough pressure on to, say, brush against. But for something like this, I find the tape to be more convenient. The other thing that blue tack can do is leave a little bit of a residue. So I tend to only do it on surfaces that I'm not going to paint, which would qualify in this case. But that is not what I chose to do today. I am also going to close these doors up because I do not care if these interior parts get painted in the same way. If I have to come back and hit them with black and metallic, I can, but they're kind of the liminal spaces between the interior and the exterior. All right, let's get to it. One thing I always like to do is to make sure to squirt a little bit of the airbrush flush through the brush first, just to make sure everything's all together properly and that I've got my air pressure set correctly and all of that. So I tend to just have a little bit of a paper towel here, and you hit it. So you run some of the flush through it. I've also had pieces of cardboard where you'll have a little bit of a cardboard backer back here. Do it that way. So you run that through. Made some changes to the audio setup this time, so we'll see if that makes a difference. I've got the door closed too, mainly because it's cold. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear me over the compressor or not. Let's see, so I've got my towel to make sure we're laying down some paint, which is good. Most important thing is a mug of tea or coffee or whatever beverage pleases you. Didn't snap this on. There we go. All right, friends, we'll let that dry and then we'll be back to it later. Hello, friends. Welcome back. And today we're going to paint the top of our Dragon Crest spaceship. This is dried overnight, so we have no issues flipping it over and painting the top. Looks like I could still get some of the side, and on this side, that's okay, not a problem. We already have pre-mixed our black from last time. Let's fire up our compressor and get to it. Actually, I think we're going to do this a little differently. I painted the bottoms of everything. I think it's now time to clip this together and just paint the top as one unit. Because I don't actually care if this part never gets any real paint on it. If it's gray, it's gray. So what? And then I'll do the same thing when it comes to painting it with the metallic. I'll just leave it clipped together, flip the upside down. Because leaving this black is fine. Leaving it gray would have been fine too. It just happened to be there. There, see? Underside's all painted. I mean, I am going to need to get into here and here, but that's okay. What I'll do is I'll start by lifting it up and spraying it from this angle and spinning it around. And then I'll put it down and get the top, I think. I think that makes the most sense. All right. Make that a little less panel gappy and get to it. Yeah, I just realized I need to take the top off in order to get this part. That doesn't mean we can't put it back on, though. Yeah, it was a silly idea. I'm just double checking. I missed a couple of spots. See, like in here, it's hard to get. All right, I think that's it for the black for today. I need to see how it dries. I'm very strongly considering doing a second coat of it because the airbrush really does tend to shoot thin coats of paint, and I think I want a good solid strong black, and then we'll put the metallic on top of that. But until next time, take care, everybody. Hello, friends, and welcome to the portion of the show where I recommend something to watch or listen to while painting. Continuing on the theme of recommendations made in the last episode, my recommendation for this episode is the audiobook Hackers, Heroes of the Computer Revolution by Stephen Levy, the 25th anniversary edition in particular. The audiobook is read by Mike Chamberlain. This book was originally published in 1984 and received updated editions in 1994 and 2010. Before we go any further, and to avoid some confusion, I would like to read the top two definitions of hacker as defined in the jargon file. Hacker, noun, definition 1, a person who enjoys exploring the details of programmable systems and how to stretch their capabilities, as opposed to most users who prefer to learn only the minimum necessary. Definition 2, one who programs enthusiastically, even obsessively, or who enjoys programming rather than just theorizing about programming. This is the definition of hacker used in the book. It's not a book about computer crime, although some of what is described in the book may have been illegal, may still be illegal. The book traces hacking from its origins in the Tech Model Railroad Club at MIT, discusses the history of computer gaming, and talks about the Homebrew Computer Club, which had a great effect on the two Steves who founded Apple. Overall, I found the book to be a lovely mix of a walk down memory lane, because I'm old and remember a lot of these events, and also a bit of a history lesson explaining how things before my time came to be. I bought the audiobook as part of a humble bundle, but I assume it's available on other places. As you can see in the screen capture, it's available on Audible. With that done, it's time for me to say goodbye, friends. And until next time, stay nerdy.